the absence of light, and light is, I mean, not it's not even the absence of dark. Light just fills the dark. So can we know good without knowing evil? Can we know, do we know what is evil if we don't know what is good? Or are those just, also very personal things? What is good for one may not be good for another. Is what is good for the goose, is it also good for the gander?
Yeah, I would say evil is that which sort of creates intentional imbalance in the system, that intentionally disrupts it, not for any further unification later. It's almost like it wants everything to be, separate or whatever.
But without that imbalance, we wouldn't have to fight. Without that fight, without the needing to recognize it and the needing to fight it, would we have grown as much as we have? I mean, I can say, at least personally for me, if it wasn't for all the struggles that I've gone through in my life, it wasn't for all the all the fucking dark nights, all the the lonely, depressing days, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be as strong as I am. So I needed that. I needed that darkness in order to find my own light. And I don't think I really would have found it otherwise, or not in in the way that I have now. I would not be on the path that I am now, or not as far as I am.
Thank you, Stein. You remind me to throw my little boy up in the air some more. He weighs 45 kilos now. It's hard, but like
big lad.
yeah, it gets you strong there. You guys are cranking open, and what you're saying is so on point about what this book is talking about in terms of good and evil. But also she gets into a big thing about choosing a group and choosing choosing an initiator and choosing what kind of person to move forwards with. Indy, brother, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to also respond. I think that like evil or dark side has impacted humanity, and we see that in like the story of Sam Yaza coming down to Mount Hermon with 200 fallen angels, where they collectively swore a binding oath to take human wives and bear children, and that he said that he would pay the penalty of sin for them all to entice them to do this like free of guilt. And so, we have this situation where, why are they trying to do this? Why are they coming down here to desecrate human existence and create this conflict with us? So along with mating with them, they ended up teaching us forbidden arts like sorcery and weapon creating and stuff, root cutting, astronomy, and things like that. We wouldn't have known how to create weapons and use dark magic unless they had told us, right? And then also by creating progeny with human women, they created the Nephilim, which terrorized humanity. So there's history of evil having an impact on our beginning times of civilization. So that's gonna have like a ancestral trauma for us that we carry today.
But that
I think that's like really interesting. That ancestral trauma, I think we all carry it, and I think it's one of the reasons why you've got these black magician fraternities that are out there, and it's one of the reasons why Dion Fortune spends so much time in this book warning you about what teacher you have because of the harmonic resonance, right? There are a lot of people that are in league with those old, outdated, evolutional dregs that are still being dragged forward now, which isn't really, it wasn't evil then, but it's evil now in this society. Like in the old times, that was the norm. But now that you're bringing that past part of our evolutional trait into now, it's considered as evil because it's harmful to our current trajectory of evolution and adaptation towards, a fulfilled and healthy state of being. I really want to just focus as well for a moment on, and because there's such a synchronicity here. You mentioned Aleister Crowley, just going back like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and chaos magic.
Mm-hmm.
And she was issuing warnings almost essentially. When was she writing? How long ago was she writing? It's almost a century ago, right? Dion Fortune. Am I right? I remember it being like it's close to a century ago, maybe a bit less. She was writing, issuing warnings then, and we see her warnings in the flesh. And I was having a conversation in a group with someone about this. They were talking about Aleister Crowley as if he's some kind of a deified godly being. And I was like, whoa, have you done your research? Have you looked into it? Have you done your homework? The dude died, passed from this world on his own, without any of his children present, without any friends present, without any other family present, no uncles, no aunts, no cousins, no nieces. Nobody came to him, right? In a guest house, which was well known for people to go and shoot up. He had basically been addicted to cocaine, and he had fought cocaine and heroin addictions most of his life. He had struggled profusely with his addictions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, according to the reports of the people that knew him, he had issues with his hygiene, personal hygiene. He couldn't even keep his body clean. He was so distracted from reality, right? And these people want to deify this guy. Yeah, okay. He used to take a lot of schnaff, like a lot of lawyers do, and go into the courtroom while they're high and be able to, speak fast and speak well and do, because that's what Charlie does to your brain. But then when he came down off the Charlie, he couldn't handle it. He had to smoke loads of hash to keep himself from having a complete and utter crash, and take heroin to keep himself stable. Right. And I mentioned this, and I was like, to me, ethics and morality are two guiding stones, morality being the first one, ethics being something that you connect with after morality as a logical thing, but morality coming from your heart.
Yeah.
And look at the fruits of the tree, right? If you were practicing a spiritual magical art and it made you a better person, you would have been more inclusive of your family, right? Your family wouldn't be like, oh, and it's not like he just passed away all of a sudden. He was on his deathbed. The doctors had been coming to him. They knew that he was on his way out, and his family still wasn't there to visit him. Come on, it says like 1,000 words. And then I had someone attack me in the group, like saying, oh, you obviously haven't read any of Crowley's books. He was this and he was that and he was da-da-da-da. And I was just like, so I went on a little mission, and I pointed out all of the scholars. They said it was all Puritan Christians that made this stuff up. So I went and found about 7 or 8 well-known scholars that were not Christians, most of them atheists. And these guys had studied Crowley's writings. These were academics, and they had documented it well. Then for good measure, I went and found another 8 or 9 occultists that were well-known occultists that had been his close friend, that had been his cheli, his disciple, that had worked with him on different projects, and what these people had written about him. And I presented all that information to them to say, there you go, take a look at it. This is the reality. And exactly, he completely fulfills the mandate that Dion Fortune is saying to you. If you come across a teacher that is like this and like this and like this and like this, watch out, because you're not just learning occult knowledge from them, you're absorbing something spiritual from them.
Yeah.
And if they are so out of balance and out of tune and out of whack, you're going to be getting toxically poisoned by that person's energetic presence. Yeah, his books were great, but if you read those books, are you taking on some of his soul's energy since he left his legacy in those words? You see what I mean? There's an occult connection to him. This is something I've read a lot of his work. I've always taken it with a pinch of salt. And then there's other things. And I actually created a meme just to cement it.
One little thing though.
Yeah.
This is Shinobi is backstage. He really wants
Oh,
to get
Shinobi,
involved,
brother.
and I should get going. I have work again tomorrow. I need to start
Namaste, brother.
6 a.m.
God
So
bless.
I'll let the one European take over for the other European.
Thanks,
God
Stein.
bless you, Stein. Take
It's
care.
Been a long
been
time,
awesome.
Stein.
I should join again more often. I'm on the round
Yeah,
table
man,
too.
definitely.
So
Definitely.
thanks, guys. Have a good evening. It's been an awesome chat, and I definitely
too,
have
man.
some
Big
things
love.
to mull over.
It's been an honor, and I want to finish what I'm saying, by the way, just because I'm halfway. Namaste, brother. Take care. Big love. And just before I finish what I'm on, I just want to introduce dear brother Shinobi. For those of you who haven't checked his channel, check his channel. He's really cool. He's writing a book, which is like a cool kind of a graphic novel, and he's a decoder, and he's investigating various different schools of thought and philosophies and spiritual psychologies and cosmologies. Go and take a look at him. He's really cool. He's with us. It's an honor to have you here, dear Shinobi. I just want to finish the point I was making about this book and how she's actually pointing out that we have to be really, really careful what fraternities we join, what magical orders we become a part of, because they all carry a vibrational field. And some of them are like positive and some of them are negative. And she gives these warnings for like what to look out for. And Crowley fits the bill for all of them. Drug abuse, disconnected from family, not like socially engaged and involved with positive social engagement, poor hygiene, like all of these, he fits the bill. And I mean, I've not been attracted to his order, but in his order, there's one little piece of information here, and let me find it for you so that you can see it. He suggests that the symbol for the sun, right, from Crowley's suggestion, he suggests in his order that the symbol of the sun came from the combination of two deities, right? And it's just simply wrong. It's simply wrong. It's just so far wrong. It's ridiculous because it's something that he made up, right? And he's citing ancient Egyptian law in his cosmology that he's made up, which is some new idea. Oh yes, don't you know, Howard? He had personal hygiene. I mean, the guy was a heroin addict for most of his life and cocaine habit. He used to take cocaine when he was going to write or when he was going to talk. He used to take heroin most of the time. He was using hash to come off of his drugs. This guy was on one drug or another. He was a complete and utter junkie. And so that is like, it's really well documented. And this is something that like the New Agers don't want to really take on board. You know, you've really got to vet your teachers. You've got to vet your teachers. You've got to make sure that if you're taking on a spiritual doctrine or a spiritual philosophy from someone, you want to know who that person is. What kind of moral fiber do they have? Okay, what other moral fiber does he have? He went into an order, he swore an oath to keep the information they taught him secret, and then he lied to them and he went and put it out publicly. Is that ethical? Is that the kind of person that you would want to be? I would go into an order and I'd say, I refuse to take an oath. Take me or leave me, right? I'm not going to keep that secret for you if I don't feel comfortable. But his idea was, no, I'm going to lie to them, make the promise, right? Get what I want and then take it and run. There's a certain element of like deceit involved and shenanigans behind this. So like even on a moral level, there's a moral question mark to be asked here, apart from the fact that he was a complete and utter druggie and he couldn't maintain. So there's a lot of these question marks here. And just to look at this, so the symbol of Nuit, according to him, Nuit represents a circle, right? And there's another deity that he made up. What does Crowley suggest is the deities with Nuit that symbolize the sun symbol of astrology. I hope that's not going to be too much for Google Brain to digest, because I've given it a big chunk of it. So he says here that Hadit and Nuit. Hadit represents the circle, and Hadit represents the point at the center of the circle. I don't even know if there was a deity called Hadit. I think he made it up. But Nuit was never associated with circles in ancient Egypt. Nuit was associated with an arch. Arches were associated with Nuit. Nuit was a symbol of Nuit was, and you can see it here on the picture. Here's it depicted in ancient Egypt, right? And Nuit was depicted as this arch with her hands on the ground and her feet on the ground, bending over. This is not just in ancient Egypt. This is an ancient depiction that you'll see in various different rock paintings in different places around the world. It relates to this notion of the firmament, right? It's ancient. And yes, you know, Aleister Crowley came, changed the name of the deity, changed the symbol related to. He said, no, it relates to a circle. But every other occult fraternity in the world and every other occult organization sees it as an arch. Then he said that the solar symbol comes from that. And it's like, zzz, there's the buzzer going twice. So the actual symbol related to Nuit is the symbol for Libra. And this is occult knowledge 101, recognized in pretty much every Western occult fraternity in the world except for Crowley, which basically is that Nuit is holding up the firmament, or she is the firmament, resting, and Shu is holding her up. And Shu is got his He deities on his side that are the ones with the heads, right? The two, you can see them there in that picture. If you go and look at a picture of Nuit, you'll see them. And that there are the four sons of Horus that represent the cardinal points, and the four sons of and that the head deities actually represent the infinity, the polarity of infinity. And the four points of Horus, or the four pillars, which are the four sons of Horus, represent, let me read it here. So Libra as the fulcrum, or the midpoint between the point of the zodiac, represents the relationship between Nuit and Jeb. Jeb, by the way, is the guy lying down. And Jeb is represented as a symbol, as a straight line, the line of the earth. So the straight line of the earth is the representation of Jeb. Nuit represents the arch that goes above the straight line of the earth, right? And she was depicted as an arch of sky, and he as a line representing the earth. Horus's four pillars, or sons, Hapi, Imeseti, Duandadef, and Jebes-Shenuf, were the 4 points of the cardinal that represent space, represent the actual cosmic space, the aether, if you wanted to put in a Greek word to represent the cosmic space. So those 4 pillars represent the space, right? Jeb represents the earth, the line, and Nuit represents the sky as an arch. And this represents energy, right? The potential between the sky electrically and the potential between the earth electrically is what produces lightning. This is what Nikola Tesla was talking about, siphoning off, right? To power our like electrical goods. And so Nuit, these two polar references are to do with the earth grid electricity, which represents, I think it's like, how many volts is it? It's 100 volts every meter, right? So at your head height, it's 200 volts. If you go up like 100 meters, it's like 1,000 volts, or so many thousand, 10,000 volts, whatever it is. That's the amount of electricity in the atmosphere as a polarity between the sky and the earth. It's a well-known sort of scientific thing. So these represent the cosmic space standing between the cardinal points, aka ether, which is the fluid matrix through which the electrical potential can work between the sky and the earth, between the ground and cosmic space. And He deities with the ram heads are the poles of infinity, representing that there's an infinite potential of energy here. And this is symbolized as the Om symbol of Libra, being the fulcrum at the furthest point from Aries on either side. It's the midpoint of the zodiac and represents energy. And today, when we speak about electricity, we speak about ohms, right? There's no coincidence here. But Crowley reinterpreted this whole thing. So he was actually teaching false teachings. This is just one little piece of information that I put together just to show some people, like, listen, you guys need to wake up, man. Like, if you're going to go with Crowley, go with him, but make sure you also go and look at, like, double check his facts, right? You read Crowley, yeah, it's all good and well, but did you go and check ancient Egypt that what he says is true? Or has he changed? He's taken the ancient Egyptian deities, rewritten the story and given it to us as his story. So, but I think, like, this is an important part of the conversation, because she speaks about the false light. She speaks about how clairvoyance can become tricked in the astral, and how the astral can reflect back at us different frequencies, and how we can be sort of trapped by the astral frequencies that we think is a transcendent experience, but it's actually just our own reverberations of our own passions and our own emotions and thoughts bouncing back at us, creating the false light. And so this false light is really something that's sort of hinted at in a lot of her texts in this book, which is really worthy of reading, and her warnings of what kind of masters and gurus to follow, what kind of fraternities to join. Do you want to join this OTO order now that you've seen this? Right? if this is a lot of trollop, then how much other bits of lots of trollop is in there? And go and look this up for yourselves, people, and go and figure it out. If you're going to speak about ancient Egyptian deities, you really need to know what you're talking about. You can't go make up a teaching and just teach it to people and change it and say this is how it is and how it was, because it becomes froth. So I think, like, this is like an important thing for us all to sort of like take on board when it comes to, in this book, the teachings of different mystical traditions and the teachers and the various different elements of mystical traditions as they relate to us and ourselves. Did I change camera? No, I did not change camera. Very weird. So yeah, that was what I was going to share. And also the point that she makes about this lower astral. Some magicians go into this lower astral and they actually travel into hell, right? And they can go down to hell for the purposes of trying to enlighten the beings in hell. Some of the white magicians. Some of the black magicians will go into hell for the purposes of learning dark lore, to be initiated into dark magics. And this is done by this particular doorway, what they call the lower astral, what I call the etheric. At the point between the etheric and the astral, there's a junction that is sort of a membrane that connects all three spheres, which is sort of what they call Da'at, or the abyss. And into that abyss, you can dive and go into, those places. So I've sort of said what I was saying. Dear brother, General Shinobi, how are you, man?
What's up, guys?
So lovely.
Well,
Yeah, happy to be here. I was in the backstage for a little while, so I messaged, and luckily Steinfork saw that. It's a shame he had to go as soon as I arrived, because haven't seen him on here for a while. So it was nice to see him briefly. I've only been able to catch the past hour or so, I missed the whole introduction to this conversation, but it's a great topic. I've listened to half the audio book of Beyond Fortune's book. Found it really interesting, very insightful. I wasn't writing notes when I was listening. I'm going to have to probably re-listen to it again, but lots of the stuff she was saying was it kind of really helped to contextualize all these abstract like thought forms and processes and stuff. Because with me personally, I didn't even know what astral, I didn't know what etheric was. I didn't know what esoteric meant. I didn't know what occult really meant about like a few months ago. Literally like not long ago at all. You did a round table, which I think I came on and I had to check quickly. I was like, wait, what's occult? What's esoteric? So I've heard these like names and stuff before, but only just sort of like looked into what they actually mean. So like more and more conversations like I have, like especially with you guys, it really helps kind of structure my thought forms. So I listen to so many intelligent conversations with people speaking from all walks of life. People who've been studying water for like years and years, and people like, you know, all kind of different things. And what I do, like I've worked out, or I've come to terms with what I would call it a gift is to weave things together. But it's very difficult to explain to people. It gets easier the more and more you talk about things, but it was really helpful to listen to Dion kind of explain these processes and these abstract these abstract things. You know, it does help to hear it in words sometimes, you know. So yeah, and then you guys were talking earlier as well about were you saying like different paths, many different paths or whatever. And I wrote a couple of notes earlier. One was that so Stein was mentioned earlier. Sorry, this was a while ago. Stein was mentioning that if thing was to do with trauma or the spark in us or something. I can't exactly remember what he said, but what I wrote down was that we all have this divine spark inside us, yeah, and it's been buried on purpose. I feel that this spark is buried inside of us. It's like our DNA is in light. Our DNA is light that's in water. And that I think there possibly was a time where our spark wasn't buried so deep, but over years and years of trauma and scapegoating and kind of being confined, like our spirit being confined over years of indoctrination, that we've had to bury it to protect it, if that makes sense. And then with helping each other remember our dormant powers, like the flame which is inside of us all, that's to do with memory. So when we see other people saying things or ways of being, that in turn, like one tuning fork rings at a certain frequency, another one next to it will start ringing as well. Also, that when we see and hear people talking and saying things, it kind of triggers something inside of us where we feel it's kind of, I guess our spirit feels like it's safe to bloom or to start emerging, right? And I look at it as, I think we're still in Capricorn season, so I'll use this analogy that with the start of the year is Capricorn, cardinal Earth. It's the time to plant seeds. So picture the seed as your pineal gland, or like, you know, so you place it in the dark. We here as beings, we're placed here in the dark as well. And then for a seed to grow, it needs water, and the water is memory or intuition. So it needs to be watered a little bit. And then as it starts to emerge, it needs light. So for the seed to grow, it needs both water and light, which I view as intuition, water, and the light is knowledge. We need both of them to grow. And I think that kind of ties into the mystic and the occult, because the mystic is more of kind of the watery intuition, whereas the occult I think is more of the kind of framework, or the more kind of logical kind of side potentially. Like, we need both. You can't have just one without the other. I think we need both to have strong roots and to branch out, and then to in turn be fruitful and drop other seeds, which in turn will grow up into trees. So yeah, that's my kind of input on that. Spoke about that stuff a while ago, so apologies for that. But yeah, I mean, just being part of these round tables for me personally has enabled me to grow so much. Like, since starting the round tables, I used to be so nervous before I came on, and I think that was possibly, like, you know, like trauma or whatever. It's like, I was like, who am I to go on the round table and talk? Who am I to be around these guys and say what I think and stuff? And the more and more I talk about stuff, I've gone on a few podcasts, and I've kind of like let that go now. And I think, yeah, this is great. It would be great if this was more like in person, like in towns and stuff, because I think a lot of people are quite isolated, but I think that's on purpose, because I think we're all kind of spread out. But then you were saying earlier, Franklin, was more and more people start vibrating, others will start vibrating too, and you don't even have to be near them, because time, like space, isn't really a thing. Vader Austin, I'll just say quickly, did experiments with water, with fourth phase easy water. So with a non-organic or non-free range egg, she placed it in between, I think it was 6 free range eggs. And I think after 24 hours, she took the water, the thin layer of water, I can't remember what it's called, from one of the outer eggs, one of the non-free range eggs, and took the water, and she did her thing with it, which is to put it in a Petri dish, freeze it for a little bit till it becomes a plasma. So between solid and liquid, and then you hold it up and look, and it was the same. It had the same resonance. It had the same frequency. It was structured the same as the free range egg was. And I view that as us as humans. You can have just one free range human in 1,000, let's say caged eggs, whatever. And then when you start resonating, all the others will too. So it's like, this ties into like Ahriman, Hura Mazda, like it's Ahrimanic force that's been unleashed in the world right now. Some think it's the little season, whatever. There's lots of shady shit going on. We all know that. But the good does always win. Darkness is not necessary for goodness, though. I really don't think that. We live in the realm of duality, but I think that to see good is to know good. To see evil is to not think, oh, I need to do good. That is how it works. You see evil and you think, I need to be better so that I can counter and fight that. But if we think like that, that is what will happen. But if we think, actually, we should always attain higher and think that trauma isn't necessary, perhaps that is what this realm would be. Perhaps. I think it's just good to have that in the back of our mind. And I'm always unsure when people are like evil is necessary, because that's just allowing it, you know? So yeah, that's my input.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point you bring there, Shinobi, because it's not just that people will justify their bad behavior because of that. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm providing the dark balance to the universe. I've met people online who are like that, and they're just like total jerks, man. You know, I think when it comes to learning lessons from evil, I think it's like, you know, the idea that if you have something dark happen to your life and you decide that this is something that, you know, you learned from it and it makes you stronger, that's a good thing. But I think the problem comes like where, like in some religions, it's almost like they start to think that there's like that darkness is almost required. Like, I think, like, you know, kind of like the Old Testament basically God is punishing you and God's putting you through all these horrible ideals. Because I think at a certain extent, the problem with kind of like, seeing darkness as some kind of like an aid to light is that people will start justifying, darkness that's not necessary. Because I think, like, when it comes to challenge, I think that a good challenge is something that's genuinely difficult, but something that if you really apply, a right level of discipline and skill, you can win. Like, I think about like video games, for example. Like, a good video game is challenging, and it definitely challenges you, but it doesn't feel futile and impossible. Like, there's a difference between, just playing, being an adult and playing just, regular Super Mario Brothers versus being like, a 3-year-old and playing some really difficult game like Dark Souls and being like expected to win when you like, it's like, this is literally impossible. Because I think when it comes to trauma, it can go two ways, right? Either sometimes trauma can, it can make you stronger. It can make you learn certain lessons, but it also can go in the opposite direction. Like when it comes to people who are, narcissists or sociopaths, a lot of the reason that people become narcissists or sociopaths is because they have parents that teach those things onto them. Like they were abused by their parents or their family members, and then they take on those behavior patterns. So in a lot of ways, the trauma actually makes the person worse rather than making them better. So in a lot of ways, it can have that darkness and trauma can be deleterious as well, but sometimes it can be beneficial when you take like a little bit of it, right? Like I know, I know this group has like, mixed feelings when it comes in with vaccines, but just the general concept of a vaccine, right? The idea that you take in a little bit of the thing so that you have tolerance for the thing, right? And I think that's kind of like with trauma. Like if you have little, events in your life that are negative and bad, you can kind of integrate them, develop an immunity to them, and become stronger. But sometimes the disease is so strong that it just overtakes the entire body, and there is no adaptation, there is no learning. It actually makes you regress backwards into a lower state. It doesn't actually raise you up to an upper state. So I would say when it comes to, I generally agree with you, Shinobi, on this, that the idea that I think that, the way I look at it is like, you don't need to eat lemons, but if you happen to have some lemons, you might as well make lemonade out of them.
Yeah, man. It's about alchemizing it, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like such an interesting point that you guys are bringing up here. And there's 2 points, actually. Firstly, the so-called darkness in the world. I teach my son. Like I taught him that. I was teaching him about nature and shamanism. His mother was teaching him the Bible. This poor bloke's getting confused. So I was like, okay, let's find a hybrid here. Like, I was like, well, forget all that nonsense your mother says about punishment. There's no such thing. What there is just rewards. Right? Like, if you scare the animals and run around and chase the dogs, I'm going to reward you for that action. If you do your homework and study really hard, I'm going to reward you for that action. Just the reward's going to be different. Do your work in the school, I'll reward you by letting you play your tablet. Chase the dogs around, I'll reward you by helping you to become a better human being by not playing your tablet. And so he started to grasp the idea of like some rewards you just don't want, but they're all rewards. And I think like that's like a really important distinction you're making, Cosmic, is that like this idea of labeling the world as like worldly things as evil. But you also made another very good point, which is like what you're basically bouncing off what Shinobi said. And Shinobi, you're always a dear to have on the show, because you bring fresh imagination and fresh ideas and fresh, because you think wonderfully originally, which is beautiful. It's not something you can learn, it's just something you are. And you were saying, Cosmic, as well, that about parents and how our parents rub off on us. And that's an interesting thing. Like, I think that's what Dion Fortune's trying to say about gurus. She's warned, be aware of the self-styled of the self-taught like initiators. Be aware of the. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a rule, but I think like it's something to bear in mind, like to really take to heart, because especially these days, you know, there's so many people out there starting mystery schools, and like you just wonder like what's going on here. And but at the same time, you know, when you're receiving the spiritual or the occult sciences, it's not like you're being taught how to write a language or something. It's a spiritual element to it. So you're gonna absorb. It's like a parent. Having someone initiate you is like being a child with a parent. And the same way that if your parents are narcissists, you'll become a narcissist. If you get initiated by a narcissist, you'll probably more likely become a narcissist. It works like that kind of a vibrational frequency. And that was why I pointed out the reality about Aleister Crowley. Like for people just like, everybody's like Crowley. And I know I'm going to step on toes when I start like pulling out inconvenient truths, but I think it's something we need to appreciate and recognize. Like you'll see, I've got a couple of Crowley's books. I got 7 on the shelf behind me. Some of his books I'll look at them and I'll read them, but I'm under no illusion that the guy is a prophet, which is what people believe. The problem is the moment you label someone a prophet, you start thinking that what they're saying is divine and true. It's not the case. He was a really good student, right? He was a high-level intellectual. When he was on coke, he was a great speaker and a great writer. Thank God we didn't see him writing when he wasn't on coke. I don't know what that would have been like, but at least when he was on it, he could write well. And you know, he obviously the Charlie that he used, it kept him up at night reading books, right? So at least he didn't just do coke and just do he did it and he studied. And I suppose like cocaine can be like a study aid. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but like I would never promote it. You know, I would always say to people like stay away from especially like those hard things, because they do burn you out. And I know from experience, I've lost friends. I got a list of friends that no longer on the physical plane because of H, and a lot of that started with Charlie, right? They started with Charlie, amphetamines. Maybe they started with amphetamines. They upgraded to Charlie. Well, they started with Charlie and upgraded to amphetamines because amphetamines is actually stronger than Charlie. And then they moved on to ketamine because they found that it helped them manage the come downs. And then they moved on to H because H is the perfect come down material for any upper, right? Like if people are like rocking on Charlie for the weekend and they actually need to sleep, they'll go and do a bit of ketamine or they'll do a bit of that. So that's how these people manage their drug systems. And I know because I've been around these people a lot, like friends when I was young, and I did a lot of psychedelics myself. So who am I to talk? And you know, but the thing is, I always like to keep my body clean. I always like to, you know, like I lost friends. Like I couldn't like, dude, when last did you shower, dude? Seriously, like, you know what I'm saying? Just like basic things that like cleanliness is next to godliness is something that's we've all heard, and that's something that's mentioned here in her books, right? Especially this one, where she's outlining like the qualities you should look for in someone if you really want to learn from them on the spiritual doctrines and occult metaphysics. You know, certain qualities, and I think like that's like really interesting. The relationship between a parent and a child is similar to the relationship between a guru and a cheli. Cheli being a disciple, or a what do you call it? Another word for it: apprentice, disciple, apprentice, and the guru being the person who's imparting. Because the relationship of gaining knowledge from someone like that isn't just words and learning. There's a spiritual component to the vibrational field of entrainment, and that entrainment field actually imparts a lot more of the information on an emotional, spiritual level. So, and then the other part of like, you know, we can't go through life labeling the world as evil. I think that's a real problem. I think we've got to be open-minded, right? There are things that we don't want to happen, but we've got to be open-minded because that way we're more open to make a clear choice. I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys?
I've had a theory that they're trying to make this world so unbearable, which they're trying very, very hard to do that. Like with here in the UK, like cost of living crisis, energy prices going up, this, that, whatever. They're trying to do a lot, and it's because I think this ties in with the ape sphere, but I could be wrong, that they're trying to make another layer of reality, a kind of artificial layer. And it all started with, well, not all started, but 3G was a big one, because then you had the introduction of Facebook, Instagram, with all of these filters and stuff, where you can have filters on your face, and then advertising so people aren't happy with how they look and stuff like that. And then we have, transhumanism, whatever. And I think that they're trying to make another layer. So, but I don't think it will happen. I don't think, like, I can see like many different paths that we have here in this realm, and I can see the path that the powers that be would like to happen, but I don't think it will. I just think at the minute, like where we are right now, we're just right in the center. We're like at a crossroads where we can go either way. And I think what's being advertised, or okay, let's say broadcast, because it's a spell, what's being broadcast out there, you have the dead internet theory, where apparently most of the internet is fake and AI. Most people you talk to in the street are actually very normal. Some more people than you think are normal, where we're told that by the media and like social media and stuff like that, we're kind of told it's either this way or that way. People are either right or left, or either right wing or left wing, and this and that. And that's trying to cause a divide like this. And I think that most people are centered. People are more human than we think. And what's kind of broadcast out there at the moment is this doom and gloom that this is either a prison planet or climate change, or we've got to go somewhere else. There's a kind of how I view it is they're trying to get us away from the present moment. They're trying to get us away from the opportune moment, which is Kairos time, which is what we're stepping into, and they want us stuck in linear. But I think right now is a very powerful time in this place where we are, a very powerful creative energy, which there's certain people and corporations and families which are using that energy. And I think it's really like there's more and more people becoming aware of what's going on, but at the same time, those people that are becoming aware of what's going on are becoming aware of the negative, not necessarily the positive, because we always perceive negative information first. When we get awareness or whatever, when we're aware, we're more kind of drawn to that. So I think there's lots of people aware of these negative energies, but I think that's the first layer. And after that, they'll start seeing the more positive energies, and then it will just be a ripple effect of more and more people, and then we'll start seeing the material shifting. Yeah, with the Gnostics as well, I've talked about them before, is I think that was a warning. It wasn't like, I haven't read, this is just my intuition, that what they were saying was a warning. It wasn't like this is a prison planet, there is a demiurge and stuff. It could be a prison planet. There could be like this energy of this demiurge born from Sophia, born from wisdom, or perhaps not born from wisdom or born from Sophia. Could be the ape sphere. It could be the opposite. It could be not born from Sophia. Maybe there's some kind of mistranslation, because it seems that something like that wouldn't be born from wisdom. It would be born from lack of wisdom. And there is a lot lack of wisdom in the world. And this kind of demiurge's kind of Marduk energy is trying to emerge. That's what I see anyway. I just see the kind of Gnostic perspective of it's more of a warning. It's kind of trickled down time, and we're kind of seeing things that they spoke about kind of played out in real time.
I think there's a lot of sense to what you're saying. I think like in the world, this is happening. And wow, I see we've been cranking it up for 5 hours almost. We're going to be reaching the 5-hour mark soon. Woohoo! It's supposed to be one of those long round tables again. The dangers of starting on a book by someone like Dion Fortune. It's going to inspire lots of sideline ideas to branch out from. And I do think, you know, this is like an interesting concept. You know, these old deities, these old gods seem to be alive and kicking today, right? Like you mentioned Marduk and whatnot. And it is unfortunately, this, according to Dion Fortune, is the first outbranch of the first. So there are the 3 great schools of magic. This is the first school of magic, which had a tendency towards becoming very obsessed with matter, like the Ahrimanic concept, right? Ahrimanism. That's really a big part of the first school, or it's one of the negative sides of it. It wasn't all negative. There was a lot of witch doctrine and shamanism that was really positive from the first school, you know? And then in the second school, the shamans from that school, they were no longer using like animal bits and stuff. They were just using their drum and chants. You see, that's the difference. Going into like the, so it depends what school of shamanism you come from. You come from that school of shamanism, you need to use substances and you need to like hurt animals. If you come from a later variation of shamanism, then you don't need to use substances or hurt nature, because like there are simpler ways. There's an interesting question that Hollowbone Hawk asked earlier, and it's about like intention is so clearly important. And we were talking about like the vibration that we take on, right? And it's got to do with our spiritual evolution. And interesting point, just to bring it back to this book, Dion Fortune points out in the book that intention is a big part of it, but desire is the big component. And she uses the metaphor of a guru or a teacher taking their student and pushing their head under the water till they like can't take it anymore, and letting them up and going. When you desire to have light as much as you desire to have air when you were under that water, then you will be ready to advance spiritually. That's like such a powerful statement, right? When every part of your being is desiring to be in a more conscious, more awakened state of consciousness, more depth of understanding, more full of love, more in harmony, a better human being in terms of what you can give back to society and your family and your children, bring out the best part of yourself. When your desire for that is so strong that it overshadows everything else, then the intention becomes like you're no longer aiming a small pellet gun, right? You're aiming a bazooka. You got a rocket launcher strapped to your shoulder as opposed to a tiny little like pellet gun, like the potential that it's got. And I think like that's something that we forget, how important our desire is, because desire is what we call evil, right? Desire locks us into physicality. It locks us into like sexuality, substances, right? Crowley was well known for having his sexual desires and his drug desires ruling his world, right? And many other great. Let's not just use him as an example, Sham, because I'm going to have all the Crowleyites hating me after this, right? Because like I've like shredded the guy to bits. But many of the great sort of so-called beginners movements, beginning people of spiritual movements or magical movements have done the same. Osho, right? The guy from the Beatles. Who was the guy from the Beatles? The Maharaj, right? Both of these guys had more lawsuits against them than you can imagine, from like underage girls. They had done things with it that like the girls were like Like he gave me drugs, I didn't know where I was, and then he did this to me and he did that to me. And by the time I came out of the stupor, I realized I'd been like on drugs and been a sex kitten for like 3 months, and I didn't know where I was, and that was not cool. Whatever he did to me, I feel violated. Both of those guys had huge like issues with like fallback of lawsuits. In fact, the Maharaj was made bankrupt, right, by lawsuits, and I think Crowley had a better lawyer. I'm not Crowley, sorry. I mean, Osho had a better lawyer than the Maharaj. But like, jokes aside, you know, and I think if you look back into a lot of the spiritual movements, you'll see the same thing. And so like intention is a big part of it, but I think it's that desire that your heart has got to be involved. Intention is like a mental thing, which is it's the direction that you focus your energy in. But then how much of your heart is in that intention? Like, how much do you want that with your heart? What are you prepared to give? You know? And that's where the idea of sacrifice comes in, you know?
When you mentioned the putting head into water, I couldn't help but think that could that be an analogy for like not just having your head in air, like breathing air of the mind, but when you go into water, water is intuition, emotions, your heart. When you have your head connected to your heart, when your head goes down into your heart, the waters, that's when you find your true power. Like the key to wisdom, I think, is a balance of knowledge and intuition, both the head and the heart. And that's the mind, the eagle, the air, the one that soars above, and then the heart, which is the intuition, the snake. And then both a snake and an eagle are visualized as a dragon. And that dragon energy is very powerful, where you can breathe fire. And I'm just thinking, is that maybe what she was talking about by, you know, people get baptized by putting their heads into water. But I think that could it be an analogy for connecting your mind and heart, maybe, potentially? Yeah.
It's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what he was saying. Your desire, your passion must be linked with your intention. Right?
Oh, is Dion a he? Is it a guy?
I used to think that for a long time. It's a woman.
I listened to the audiobook. Yeah. Oh, no, it's because you said he. So you just said he.
No. In the audiobook, she's talking about a teacher
who
did that to a student.
Right. Okay.
And so the analogy is, but this is an interesting point. So what is baptism? What was baptism? Was baptism where an adept would hold you under the water to the point that you were afraid that you were going to lose your life? And in that intense passion, all you want is to breathe so that you can experience the depth of your passion in a safe place with somebody who's there psychically, telepathically connected with you, and they know how much you can take, and they go, you can take a little more, no, okay, that's it, let him up, you know, so that you can get your maximum hit of like as much like, oh my gosh, oh, and then come up and go, oh, that area, and then know, okay, that feeling that you just had for air, I want you to meditate on that feeling and direct that feeling towards the light and start training your mind to want that so much. That, I mean, that's really what she's talking about. Aligning the consciousness in the different streams, the head and the heart.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring up desire because I think when it comes to desire, whether your desire is healthy or unhealthy, that desire informs some aspect of who you are and what you are. Like, for example, like you may have, like, let's say you have a desire for alcohol. Well, that's like, but maybe that desire for alcohol is based on a desire to have a family, have a loved one, have a partner. And that desire is being subjugated by another desire. I think when it comes to gurus and stuff, I think a lot of them, there's a trick that they do to trick people into thinking they've actually overcome their desires, but actually haven't. Like, so I think about like lust, for example. Like, let's say, you know, you're a guru and you see some attractive woman walking down the street in some revealing outfit. Now, a normal person would say, oh, you know, I'm attracted to this person. I have lustful feelings towards them. But what I've noticed with a lot of like religions and magical, you know, people do to kind of trick themselves and say, well, oh, I don't have those desires. Some demon is possessing me and making me lust after women. Guys, I'm completely innocent, you guys. I have no lust for the woman. That demon, he's making me feel those lustful feelings. And I'm just totally pure. And I think that what that's doing is that you're not actually taking responsibility for your desires and your feelings, and you're essentially projecting them outward into these kind of imaginary entities rather than actually sort of dealing with them on their own. Like, another thing I was thinking about, like, in terms of like gay people and Christianity, I was thinking about like, why is it that a lot of like some of these Christians are so, you know, anti-gay and homophobic? And why do they feel so nervous around gay people? And a lot of people say, oh, well, it's because they have, you know, secret gay tendencies that they hide inside. But I think a lot of what it is because they don't spend time actually exploring and understanding their desires. They don't, you know, they don't touch themselves. They don't have any premarital sex. And so what happens is sex becomes this kind of dark mystery. They don't understand where their desires come from. They don't understand why they have desires. And so when the desires do show up, they seem really threatening and dark and terrifying, because in a way, it's like when you think your desires are outside of yourself, it's like you're being possessed. It is in a sense like you're being possessed by a demon, you know? So I think it's not, and I'm not just saying that like, you know, you should indulge in your desires or not. That's not really the point I'm making. The point is that you should understand the nature of your desires, because in a way, how can you overcome your desires if you don't understand the nature of them? That's something the Fae have kind of like pointed out to me recently. It's like you have to know what that desire, where that desire is coming from. Otherwise, you don't, it just remains a mystery, and it just becomes this like, you know, specter that just sort of haunts you, rather than actually, you know, acknowledging like, okay, yes, I have these feelings, I have these desires, I'm going to own up and take responsibility for them and, you know, change my behavior. Instead of some people, you know, they still have all of those tendencies. They still have the thoughts of, you know, lust and anger, and they still do all these terrible things, but then they blame it on some external entity. So when they look at themselves, they think that they're perfectly, you know, innocent and pure and just and in alignment with God, when what they're actually doing is they're taking their vices and their negative attributes out of themselves and sort of disconnecting that from their own personality. Like if you think about like the Old Testament God, for example, a lot of ways when you look at the Old Testament God, he had aspects of both sort of wrath and love. But then when you get to the New Testament, it's almost as if that deity takes that negative aspect of themselves and then projects that onto the entity he created called Satan. And so in a lot of ways, what the devil actually is the negative aspects of Jehovah that Jehovah can't accept about himself. And so, and I mean, that's kind of like the way you got to look at desire, is that it's not really good or evil. You just need to kind of understand what is the actual catalyst for that desire, as opposed to kind of turning it into this kind of paranoid, you know, fantasy.
Yeah, man. You know, that's. I think there's a lot to that, and I think that often might be, you know, a big point to look at within the human condition, shall we say. It's probably something that we do. We like to demonize someone, and you're the bad person. In Vedic ceremonies, they'll have these eunuchs that will come to attract the bad, evil spirits away from everybody else, so we can have a good party with our kid who's turning 1. They have a big birthday bash for the first year of a child's life, and then they don't bother after that. But they have a big one on the first year, which is hilarious because the child doesn't remember their own party. But anyway, that's how they roll. It's not about making memories. It's about, for the family. But, I suppose this is a thing that is a practice. I'm looking at the chat here. You guys are, I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm seeing that it's quite interesting that that's how it works, that there's definitely, I had to put that user in timeout. It's the first time I've had to do it. I had to actually put someone in timeout because they're here. They're talking about all sorts of nonsense. I'm like, dude, are you not listening to the conversation? We're not talking about that, dude. Like, come on, go to like only fans for that, not here. But anyway, but yeah, Cosmic, there's a lot to that. I think though that when we look at the tradition, there's more to it, and this is something that is mentioned. There's two more points I want to mention here. Yeah, one quote I like. I first want to put this quote out there. One of her quotes, beautiful quotes. Studying the map is different to walking the path. It's just food for thought. It's about like getting occult knowledge and understanding, and like looking at things is not the same as putting it into practice. Something quite powerful about that. But one of the things that she points out is how in the West our spiritual heritage got so diluted by the church. And we saw us having a conversation about this just last week, weren't we, Cosmic? About the church and about what they had done, right? And if you remember correctly, there was this idea as well being sort of put out there, which was about the Cathars. We were having a discussion about the Cathars and how Languedec was where the massacres happened, where in order to exterminate 300 or 200 or 300 Cathars, the Pope Innocent III, hilarious, ordered the massacre of 20,000 people, many of which were women and children, to get 300 Cathars. They had to get rid of them because they were a real risk to the church. And the Cathars were teaching a particular knowledge. And the knowledge they were teaching was very similar to what what's his name? Marcionian. What was his name? Marcion. Yeah. Marcion was teaching. And Marcion, by the way, is the oldest Bible, the oldest compilation of the Bible before the Greeks got hold of it and returned it into what we know. Marcionism taught that had a different take on things, completely different take on Christ, a different take on a lot. So the idea that Marcionism taught that Yahweh was the Antichrist, right from the front, right from the word go, that this being Yahweh that was being worshipped had given a false religion to people, and that false religion was the problem. And that Christos had come here in order to call Yahweh out. And when Christos was calling Yahweh out, he was calling him, that's who he was dealing with. And then they changed the text later to be Satan and this and that. But actually, the Marcion idea, which is the same idea that were carried by other people that became part of Cathar knowledge, that became part of Gnostic knowledge, right? Gnosticism. This was carrying very ancient knowledge, which we call Gnosticism, but it actually comes from back then. I think it went from Marcionism to Manichaeism to Cathar to Gnostic. I think that's the order of it, something like that. Anyway, regardless. So just to bring that into perspective, I think they've lied to us, Cosmic. I think the whole text that we're using as a reference is a lie. Because when you go back older texts, you see there's very interesting discrepancies. And the Catholic Church was so extremely scared of Marcion, they had to get rid of him and his followers and his books by pain of not being alive. And the same with the Cathars. These guys were a serious threat to them. You got to understand that the philosophy that the Cathars were teaching was that Yahweh was the Antichrist. Isn't that a new way of looking at things?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
So when Christos was calling out the Antichrist, he was completely like right. He was like, you're the evil. In other words, this whole world that's being created by the Yahweh was created so that he wanted to be God. He wanted to be like this. Like that's what's all this jealous nonsense. You can worship no one but me. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
He's like
the word
sorry, carry on.
the word religious, I've been thinking recently, sounds like really jealous. Yeah, I'm really jealous. Religious. I'm really jealous, you know. Yeah, I think the Cathars taught about reincarnation and stuff as well. I think were there some kind of like Buddhist philosophy too they had, which was more aligned with the teachings of Christ, whereas now Christians don't really teach about the teachings of Christ. Like most Christians I know don't do what Christ did. They don't heal people. They're not healers and stuff like that. But I think the Cathars were more aligned with like Christ. Let's sort of be like him because he was an awesome guy. I think, yeah.
I think that's what Marcionism was also teaching, as was Manichaeism, as was Gnosticism. All the things. Gnosticism, they found more humane ways of getting rid of. But if you were practicing or worshipping Gnosis or in that way, I bet you were accused of witchcraft or your bloodline, right? And then it wasn't, no, it's not about Gnosis. It's about that guy he's a black magician, right? So that they had their bases covered. Like, let's just get rid of everybody that's got any connection to the real divinity. So that we can, and you know, one of the things that she says in this book is like, look at the fruits of the tree, the organization, look at the Catholic organization, look at what they did, right? I think we can get an idea of where they were coming from by what they did. 20,000 women and children sent to the Netherlands of the underworld so that they could get 200 to 300 Cathars. I mean, how desperate were they?
Is that story being played out now? Because like the return of Christ, where was he born? You know, just saying.
You're talking about the arm prick adventure.
No, I'm talking about Middle East.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like, there's lots of talk of Christ returning, the Antichrist, or both coming at the same time, whatever. It seems that like there are certain people in a certain area that have been wiped out. There's people know that there's going to be someone born in that area. I don't know. It seems that a lot of these stories are just being playing out right now. Mythologies I see being played out, old stories like Echo, and then the story of the Cathars as well. You know, because there is technology that we know about now, like Looking Glass, where this stuff we know about, which some people would be like, that can't be true. But there's stuff that we don't know about as well, guaranteed. We don't know everything, obviously. But Looking Glass technology, they're able to see various different paths of where we were going as humanity, and every single time there was a certain point, a sort of a crux point, and I think perhaps we're at there now. And I think that maybe that the Christ returning isn't just one person or one being. It's just, it comes through many people, I think. But not going to talk about that on your channel. But you know the area I'm talking about, with the similar situation to the Cathars. You know, more than 20,000 women and children being killed and stuff, you know. But
Yeah.
that's a conversation for a different time and stuff. But I just mean, I think that
is exactly
yeah.
what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think another interesting element to point out is the sort of the apocalyptic narrative aspect of Judeo-Christianity, because what, you know, if you think about, one thing I've been kind of interested in lately is I've been kind of watching this one YouTube channel that kind of goes into like the actual like historical aspects of the Bible, like, you know, people like Bart Ehrman who kind of like, you know, pick it apart and show accuracy. But the thing about the apocalypse is that, you know, we always told like the apocalypse is imminent, but if you look at the actual Bible, the idea was that the apocalypse was supposed to happen within, you know, Paul and the disciples' lifetime. And according to Christ, it was supposed to happen like pretty close to when, you know, after his death, like within like, you know, that century or so. Well, I mean, that apocalypse never happened, but the effect that happened is that with the apocalypse always being around the corner, it puts Western civilization in a consistent state of urgency and panic, because there's always the sense of the clock is running out, time is ticking, you don't have time to think about anything, and you got to go, go, go. You don't have time to think, you just got to move. The apocalypse is right around the corner. You don't have time to hesitate. You don't have time to think. You don't have time to contemplate. You've got to act now. And the thing about a lot of cults and other deceptive, like even like with like people selling cars, one of the things they'll do, like if they want to like, you know, sell a vehicle, and they'll tell you that they've got some kind of deal or discount, but that you got to act within this discount today because tomorrow the discount's going to done. And that's a manipulation tactic where you create this sense of urgency because when you have a sense of urgency, you're not taking your time to think things out rationally and logically and try to make sense of them. You're in this state of panic. And so I think one of the other deleterious aspects of this kind of Yahweh cult is this persistent sense of, you know, just that everything is, the clock is going to run down, that it's this consistence of hurry and worry, and the clock is running out. And that kind of like it's what cults do, is they create that sense of urgency and that sense of that the clock is ticking so that people don't think and that they move forward. So I think in a lot of ways, when we think about like, you know, the end times, it's like the end times never actually come, but they're always right around the corner. They're always like only a couple years away. And I think that's another aspect that needs to be kind of discussed, because, you know, if you think about like what I was talking about earlier about nature kind of needing to sort of preserve itself and not necessarily wanting an apocalypse, you know, when it comes to development and growth, you know, it takes time. It takes, you know, a lot of thought. You can't really, it's not something you can necessarily rush or, you know, put out, you know, do overnight. It's a slow cook. It's something that takes a lot of time and discipline and effort. And this whole kind of sense of urgency thing is, it's kind of like forcing people to not do that. It's forcing people to just be like, you know, you got to do this quickly. You got to follow this stuff now. The end times are coming. You don't have time to think about this stuff. And that sense of urgency is, in my opinion, incredibly manipulative.
I just wanted to say just about the book, the last 2 chapters, just to give like a quick outline book review. Just by the way, others, read the book. It's a good book. Don't believe everything you read, but read the book because it's a really good book. There's a lot of good stuff in it. They speak about the secrecy, right? Yes, secrecy and obedience. Secrecy. Why secrecy? Well, spiritual occult sciences, magic is dangerous. People can get hurt. People doing it can get hurt, and people can use it to hurt other people. Like, I think that's a summary of that chapter, basically. And obedience, always be obedient to the great, to the masters, which are on the spiritual planes that are advising us what to do and how to move forward. But be careful about being too obedient to the initiators. If they ask you to do something, do it if your intuition and your instinct and your heart says yes, it's okay to do it. Otherwise, no, don't do it. That's what Dion Fortune suggests. Always go with your sovereignty and keep it real, keep it true. That's that quote I read earlier that I liked so much, right? The higher self is the first initiator, over and above the other initiator. And the other cool quote was, well, I read it in the beginning. I did read it in the beginning, somewhere there. Yeah. So, but that's basically the gist of that. And then the seeking the master, I think like we've covered a lot of that when we were talking about like what to look for in a teacher. Not seeking a master, sorry. Yeah, seeking the master is trying to make a connection with the spiritual. And that's what the purpose of initiation is. Initiation is there to link the higher and the lower parts of our consciousness together so that we're able to have a synergious experience and transcend the physical limitations of the vehicle. It's really shamanism, essentially, and have the potential to be able to go and meet the masters or to draw them towards yourself and to gain direct inspiration and direct intuition from them. They speak about the holy guardian angel. This is really interesting. And so they relate the holy guardian angel to the self, having communication. But I think here is where there's different perspectives. What that means in Masonry, what that means in Rosicrucianism, what that means in Theosophy, I think is slightly different, but all very similar. So yeah, and your initiators, you know, you got to be really careful. I think that's sort of like the summary of that. We're getting towards the end of a long time here, 5.5 hours. It's been cranking. It's like on tap, round table. Cosmic Indie brother, you haven't said anything in a while. Are there any burning ideas, passions, feelings, thoughts? You look like you've been drawing something cool. I'd love to know what you were drawing.
I think I pretty much said what I've needed to say today.
Nice. Nice. I can't unmute you. You've muted yourself, just so you know. I'm trying to unmute you, but I can't.
I think it's been an awesome show. We've covered so much great material. Nothing's really coming to mind right now. I'm just gonna listen in again, and if something comes up, I got a few things to say. Just can't think of what it is.
Cool, brother. General Shinobi? Oh, we are color coded, by the way, and you're muted.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say, was Shu the one who separated the heavens and the earth?
Yes,
Yeah,
Shu is the one that holds up the firmament.
Yeah,
and the He are the two on the sides with the ram's heads, and then there's the 4 sons of the solar that act as the cardinal points, and then there's Jeb who's laying down, and it's the same idea of the Mahakali. Well, it's not the same idea, but Mahakali is dancing on Shiva. There's like a similar concept there, and it's not quite the same, but that represents cosmic energy. So that Om symbol of Libra, which is that with the line underneath it, represents the energy of the polarities, the relationship between the earth and heaven.
Yeah, because it's interesting because we have shoes obviously that separate us from the. Because I tried looking at that a while ago, the origins of the word, and it says it came from Germanic, and it's no there's no correlation between Shu, the god, and our shoes. That's not where the name is from. But it's like when things sound the same, it's just so interesting. Like our shoes separate the earth and the heavens, and there's this god Shu. But where's the connection there? I like, do you know what I mean? I've tried searching. It's like it's old Germanic word meaning Shu, which means something really obscure, but it sounds the same. It's just so interesting how all the time these like words seem to fit. Just always follow the sound, like, and then you'll find the essence of what it means. That's been the biggest guide for me, is just the essence of language, because it goes beyond. It just goes beyond. Like you're like, oh, this sounds the same as that, and then you can kind of work out the true meaning of it. But yeah, I found that super interesting that we have shoes, and then there was Shu that separated the heavens and the earth. You won't find it online though. If you try searching like why are shoes called Shu, you won't see it. Oh, it's because there was this god that separated, because they wanted to detach us from these gods, you see. So they use media. There's like,
I found something.
okay.
So let me just quickly stop sharing that and share this instead. You'll find it easier when you're looking for etymology. By the way, I've discovered this, is to always put the word PIE in there.
Why is that?
Pi from the Proto-Indo-European, because then you bypass all the other crap. You go to the root language, as close to the root language as you can. So for you guys out there doing etymological searches, search for the pi, and then work your way back from pi to Shemitic to ancient Greek, and then from there to Latin, and then work your way back through the other languages. The Proto-Germanic is pretty old as well, but the Pi group of languages is where you find a much more. So let me share this quickly. So it's quite interesting, because you're going to love this. Basically, you're going to call them out on their crap, right? You ready, brother? You ready for it? So what does Shu do? The deity Shu holds up the sky that covers the earth, right? And the word Shu in Proto-Indo-European comes from the root to cover, and it relates to skew. And skew also has another root word which means not straight. And you could almost say if something skew, it's curving. The curvature of the heavens is skew, Shu, and it covers. I think there is a smoking gun there, and I think that a lot of our language comes back from ancient Egyptian, and I think anyone tries to tell you it doesn't, I think they're mouth frothing. My personal adventure through etymology keeps coming back to Proto-Indo-European, and when you start taking it to the Egyptian hieroglyphics, you start coming out with really interesting information. I think your instinct is really good. And, you know, there is an AI Google that rules the internet, right? And it's there to program us. Let's not forget that. So, but there's an idea. And the Proto-Germanic, which is Skohaz. Okay, so let's go with that word, Skohaz. Skohaz, Proto-Germanic meaning. Skohaz, Proto-Germanic meaning. I wonder whether it would have been as precise as Shu. Oh, it's already the word Shu as we know it. Sku, German. Swedish, Norwegian. Skek.
Skek. The Skeksis.
Skew. Well, skek is an older one version of it, skek, and another version of it is skew. Skeuh.
That's so interesting you say Skek, because what's it called, that TV
The
series?
Skeksis from Dark Crystal.
Yeah, and if the Skek is like a shoe that separates heaven and earth, the Skeksis, they're like ones that separate you know, the mind and the heart. They're trying to sort of divide, I guess, the rulers dividing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that you picked up on that. Your instincts just, yeah, I suppose we've got to follow our instincts and see where they take us. Often, this is the problem. We're living in a world where we're being brainwashed, right? You can't trust the etymology you get from the web. You can't trust the information you get. If you go on the internet, like Crowley's a prophet, right? He's a prophet that brought through all this incredible. But when you actually research what he's saying and compare it to like old like mythologies, it's there's something off, and it's almost like there's an agenda to promote. And this is one of my issues with chaos magic, right? Chaos magic has come and taught us that you can just anything you can imagine, that's real. Right? But, you know, anything that you can imagine is real on a certain plane of existence. True. Doesn't make it real. Doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it genuine. However, if you can imagine something that's real on more than one plane of existence, you can actually connect different planes of existence through that imaginings. But chaos magic suggests something different. So, you know, and so you can manipulate the forces of the the astral and the etheric, or what they call the lower astral, by a symbol that isn't true, because this is such an imprintable plane by the human Maya consciousness, right? But it doesn't make it true for the spiritual dimensions, right? This is the distinction. It will be a product of the false light. And so I think, you know, this was something that I saw early on with the chaos magic. I was like, yeah, principles, you're following the traditional principles in a way, but you're twisting them. But there's something about the way the information is being presented oftentimes that to me just felt wrong. Like there was a wrongness to it. It was like, this is the kind of magic you'll do if you want to make things happen. But this is not what magic is. Magic's supposed to be like a divine, you know, what Dion Fortune's describing is making connections with spiritual hierarchies, with high divine energies that are going to become a part of our transformative experience towards evolving and being a part of humanity's evolution towards a positive state of being, as opposed to just like, I need to get more money, or that one pissed me off, I want to make their life bad, you know? Which is where I think chaos magic often ends up going. That's just my opinion. So if there are any last ideas, throw them on the... Yes, brother.
Did any of you guys watch the Dark Crystal show?
I did.
You did? Do you remember the two mystics that were rebels of the Skeksis that ran away, that were like the hippie birds?
I think I do. It's been a while since I watched it.
They were hilarious.
Yeah, the narrative.
They were like, the one was really stupid.
They were hilarious and absurd. But the thing is like the things that they were saying were like incredibly wise, but they were like kind of saying it in like an idiot savant kind of way. They were trying to tell the people, what was the name of the people? What were they called? The Gelflings.
Yeah.
The Gelflings, they told the Gelflings that you needed to unite their divided parties and come together and find this blade that had been divided and put it back together. And through their being united as a collective, they could overthrow this like evil tyrannistic Skeksis birds. And like they gave him some like special gem to guide him to the swords or something. But I thought it was really symbolic, and sorry to blow up for some people that hadn't seen it, but I think, you know, it's just kind of a teaser. Really, when you see it unfold, it's just really pretty awesome how it unfolds in the show. And
we should unpack it here.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. I've done a write-up on it from a while back, but it's been a few years since I've seen the actual show. But there's some sacred geometry involved with number 3 and 7, and it's all about like, which is really symbolic of what we've been talking today, is like the two polar extremes need to like come together and unite as one, integrate. and that will help them like empower themselves to like overcome whatever kind of chaos or like dangers and oppression
Let's do a poll.
What's that?
Let's do a poll. What would you guys in the chat think? And Cosmic, Indy, would you guys like to watch The Dark Crystal and take notes and come and discuss it?
Yeah,
Decode it?
it's fun, man. It's a good.
Sorry, Indy, I didn't mean to interrupt you, brother. I got excited.
That's good. That's
It'd
good.
be an interesting concept, yeah.
Yeah, Howard saying the never-ending story too. I'd love to unpack that.
That, me as well. We should just have like a roundtable movie night.
Yeah,
It'd be fun.
be a good time.
Watch a movie and comment over it, you know?
Maybe once a month we should do that.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Like once a month we should do like something like a film or a book or something. Like it's probably a good idea. I think the book reviews are quite an interesting idea as well. But also to like take films, certain ones, but like The Dark Crystal, The Never-Ending Story, Labyrinth, right? These are probably three. And then there's a couple of the Ghibli films, right? Some very interesting something going on there. Howl's Moving Castle. What the hell is going on there?
Yeah, I get into some anime.
I suggested Holy Mountain, but then I realized we'd probably have to do 5 roundtables to uncover that entire movie. There's so much. It's so saturated with symbolism. It's ridiculous.
You know what? I haven't watched it.
You haven't? Oh, you gotta
No.
watch it. It's amazing.
The Holy Mountain. I'm gonna watch it, dude. I've seen it, like, and I've always looked and I've gone like it's too long. I don't know whether I can sit here and watch
It's
a whole movie.
like it's surreal, but you can follow along with it. Like it's the stuff that's going on is so like visually stimulating and entertaining. It holds your interest, I think.
Is it like 3.5 hours long?
No, I think it's like it's long. I actually don't know what the length of the movie is. Let me check that.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I think that's the one I'm thinking about.
Have you guys seen Ghost in the Shell or Akira or Ninja Scroll?
Classic.
Yeah, those ones.
I remember watching Akira many years ago. The Ghost in the Shell. I saw the second Ghost in the Shell too.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was pretty good.
Absolutely.
Spirited Away. Oh, that's a beautiful story. That's a classic. Yeah, there are a lot of these cool things.
Hour and 54 minutes. So it's a full 2-hour movie. So yeah, it is longer than average movies.
Oh, it's not that long.
Yeah.
I must be mistaken. Maybe I've seen it years ago. Like
You might have.
maybe I'm thinking of a different film.
What about Princess Mononoke?
I'm definitely gonna go check it. Holy Mountain. Maybe I saw it when I was young with a massive bag of weed. Way much more weed than I should have had, and I was like falling asleep halfway through the film.
Good possibility. What about Princess Mononoke?
Oh, classic, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Classic.
a good one. I could go on for days about the symbology of it all.
That's quite sad, though. Oh, yeah.
It is very sad. You know, I don't know. I sometimes like to stop at a certain point and like do my own ending and stuff because they brought so much potential to something, and then the spirit of the forest can't die.
What about the positive side
It's happening.
of the opposite? What about the side of the polar opposite heart desire? I don't know. I didn't follow the other part of the conversation before then. Big love to the people that are leaving. But I thought like your original idea for the first one would be a good one. Dark Crystal. I actually wanted to watch it with my little boy because I think it's a really good film to watch. It's all done with puppets. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Old school.
Really impressive
Proper
puppet
old.
work, by the way. That's what I like about that movie, like the set design and how they like have like an entire forest like made of puppets, and they come up with all like the flora and the fauna, like having its own look. It's so cool.
It's a proper piece of art. Yeah.
Mhm.
None of these psyop stuff that we're watching these days. In those days, when they made psyop, they made it count. They put their back into it, a bit of elbow grease. These days you just have an AI make it for you. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, the
Well,
events involved in that show, they really parallel the Edgar Casey testimony of Atlantis and his channelings. So we should probably like have like a little read up on that too, either before or after
that's
watching.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Probably a good idea. Namaste, Edward. I mean, sorry, Edward, you got me there. Namaste, I'm getting late. I'm getting tired because it's getting late. I'm getting late because it's getting tired. Something going on there. Namaste, Bernadine. How are you doing? I hope you're well. Hope you're thriving. Everybody. Big love to everybody. And I noticed how we were color coded. Toby, you and I. Classic, because it is such a nice color shade of green, huh?
Yeah, man.
One of my favorite shades. It's not quite turquoise.
Sort of sage.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Looks like a sage.
I don't know. It's
teal?
kind of,
It's more of a
I don't know what sort of green. Mine's not teal. It's kind of. I wouldn't say it was teal. It's kind of like
it's not
moss
teal.
green.
Yeah, mine too. It's the same.
Yeah. I'm just trying to work out what the color would be called, like moss green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like such a cool color. I love the color. I love wearing it. I've only got one T-shirt this color. I want to get more things this color. I've decided. Anyway, big love to everybody. Hope you all in the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed. And so we're going to do the Dark Crystal, peeps. Yeah?
cool. The movie or the show or what?
The movie.
I think the
And then
movie
the
will
show
probably
about-
be easier because the show is like is a bit more of a commitment. Like it's like 10 episodes, each one's like an hour. That might be a little more tricky.
Yeah.
It's good.
After the,
but
if we do a follow up, we do one or two episodes that are like
We can.
more similar.
But I thought the movie is a classic to start with because there's so much in that
Yeah.
movie.
yeah.
I don't think I've seen the movie. I've seen the series.
Oh, the movie's way
You
better.
can actually watch it with
Okay.
your kids. It's like it's classic, you know.
The movie's not as
It's
goofy.
puppets. It's real art.
Yeah.
And it's about like good, like winning over evil. You know, it's a nice concept. It's less brainwashing than all the other crap on the television these days, you know. And at least you're there with them to like, hey, that bit is bad. That bit, no, don't let that program your brain.
No, when they watch like stuff like Minecraft or whatever, I always explain to them like what's going on. Like, oh, that's that. Goes over their heads, but hopefully it's in there somewhere, you know. And like with Dogman, it's like there's red, there's pink and green in every scene. Like, and all of these new films coming out, there's blue and purple in every. There's a color palette they have.
Interesting.
Seems to be blue, purple, and no, is it pink?
Pink and grey.
Yeah, there's a specific color palette that all kids shows have now. It definitely does something, but I don't know what. But I do know that they have a specific color palette. So I show him, I'm like, look, there's pink and green in every scene in this movie. Like, just watch it. They're like, oh yeah, look, Daddy, there's the pink, there's the green, there's the. I think it's quite good to show kids because some people be like, don't watch that. At first I kind of was a bit like, let's not watch this and that, but I think it's quite good to train them and to see, like, be like, look, this is going on and that's happening. And so yeah. I'm sure it goes over their heads, but whatever.
Well, you're living in a digital age. You're going to be brainwashed by something. You want to learn how to deprogram.
Exactly. Yeah.
To unpack what are you doing to me with your colors?
Yeah.
Like when you walk into a restaurant and everything's red, you go like, hold on, you're trying to make me hungry. I'm not falling for it.
Yeah.
I have eaten. I'm not hungry. I don't need your food. But that's how it works, That's how they get us.
Opposite of the heart's desire would be either satiation or gratitude. because gratitude is like the opposite of wanting and chasing. Whereas also being satiated is like the opposite of needing to seek out sustenance, you know. But those are
That is quite interesting. The wake of the pole of desire. So if the pole of desire is what you're pulling towards you, I would say it's what you don't want. Desire is what I want.
but
And
they
so
said
the
though, but aversions are, you know, very meaningful and necessary. Having aversions to things that don't serve you.
when if I want one color, then I won't want another color because I want that color.
Yeah,
Don't they work like that?
it does.
If I want a sweet flavor, I won't want a bitter flavor because it contradicts the sweet flavor that I want. Yeah.
Wanting messes things up.
No. It's
That
like
just
this
makes
is
it
interesting.
fun, you know? We all
Give
have
and
our
take.
preferences.
So that's a really interesting question. It's a really interesting question. It's a really interesting way of like, you know, breaking down what powers your desires is what you don't want. So the way to work on changing your desires is change what you don't want. Embrace what it is you don't want in order to not be trapped with what you want. Is that interesting? So if you want a sweet flavor, eat something bitter. And by you'll cure yourself of the desire to have something sweet. And that's true. That's a truth. I've been helping my son to programming himself against sweet flavors. He's still a child. He still likes his sugar because it's like a drug to them, dude. Right? It's like a drug. Give them enough sugar and they're off the walls. It's like Charlie, woohoo! I'm on Charlie. I'm on amphetamines, woohoo! You know. It's like you got to hold them down, get them down from the walls, like to get a hold of sugar. My son's mother has no idea where to draw the line. And she just give him sugar to the point where I'm like, can you not see that this poor child is bouncing off the walls? But I've taught him to drink cacao, pure cacao, without any sugar, without any raw honey. I won't give him sugar. I don't buy sugar. I only buy raw honey. Well, but like I've taught him to like appreciate the bitterness of cacao. A little bit of almond milk, unsweetened, cacao and hot water, strong, bitter. And I'm making it stronger and stronger for him. And now he's like, this is the way to drink cacao, Dad. I don't know why people would want to put sugar in it. I'm like, that's the one. And ever since he's been doing that, he's had less desire to ask for sweet things. Isn't that interesting? I've got like 1 kilogram of raw honey, which is local Fynbos raw honey. He hasn't even been asking me for any of it. He used to be like, Dad, can I have some? And like I made a deal with him, like rather than buy you sweets, I'll buy 1 kilogram of Fynbos raw honey, and instead of giving you a sweet, I'll give you a tablespoon of that every time you want one. And he was like, that raw honey rocks. He figured out that it's better than the sweets he gets from the shops. And it's like a massive jar of raw honey. And he'll pile through that thing in about like a month, like 1 kilogram. Like, but it's better than giving him sweets, you know? And he gets the same like yumminess from raw honey. And as a child, they can eat raw honey off a spoon, right? They don't need an excuse. But yeah, I think that's interesting, you know. Is that why the Christian people beat themselves? Yeah? They spank themselves on the back with their little whips. Because they want comfort, right? They desire comfort. They desire all of that stuff, and they whip themselves so that they no longer desire comfort. And when they don't desire comfort, then they are more satisfied with the life that they've got because they no longer want that. And, oh, I want that. I want more. I want more. I want that. I want more comfort. I want a nicer, bigger house. I want more of this. I want more of that. This is what I've got. This is, isn't that an interesting concept where the idea of beating yourself comes from? I think that must be connected to the negative pole of desire. Anyway, if you guys got last things to say, let's do it before we say goodbye.
Yeah, all good, my end. I think I've said everything. Yeah, it's been a great conversation, guys. I expected to come on and just be on for like 20 minutes or so. So it's been nice to have a chat with you guys for a while. Yeah. So, yeah, just until next time, I guess.
Thanks, General Shinobi. I wanted to reiterate something that General Shinobi mentioned earlier, that it's time to plant seeds in the dark, being the winter time right now in the Northern Hemisphere. And we can start to learn and grow through finding stillness in the darkness, to send out our roots and start to rise up. And I think that it's a powerful time right now where we can have solitude and maybe be locked away from the cold weather, have a place to focus on our studies or our meditations or exercise or whatever you're trying to do to enhance your life and have it go in a good direction through devout practices in the dark times. So I think also if you guys, anybody wants to hear out there in the audience, in the chat, or you guys want to learn more about the giants and some of the different giants that helped humanity build some of the megalithic structures, I got a new article out on my blog, Vibe Tribe Scribe.
You know what, Indy? Why don't you also just take your phone and record yourself talking about it and post it on your YouTube channel? Ding, 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 ling, ling, ding, ding, ling, ling, ding, 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 ding.
I'll do a little short from this, a couple of them.
Namaste, people. It's been an honor. Cosmic just had to go. It's been an honor, Cosmic, out there into the winds of Cosmic Prankster Land. And dear Indy Sage and dear Shinobi, it's been great. It's been lovely. Everybody in the chat, thank you guys. You guys have been terrific.
I forgot to say as well. I'll just say quickly. I'm doing a talk here in my town on Tuesday, and I'm gonna film it. I'm gonna record it, and then I'll post it on my YouTube. Hopefully before next weekend. But I'm looking forward to it because I want to just see where people are at, and then I've got some like frameworks to use to show them, like so they can visually see stuff. I'm going to use the 3, 6, and 9, and hopefully start a little group here in my town where we can meet up every couple of weeks and talk about stuff. Talk about health, talk about what's going on in the world and how we can grow, basically. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's one of my biggest fears. Well, it is my biggest fear, I think, public speaking. So just stepping into it, because I think talking about this stuff is just it's bigger than that fear. So yeah, looking forward to it. And yeah, I'll post that on my YouTube ASAP. So probably like Wednesday.
You're giving me an idea. I need to talk to my girlfriend. Big love, brother. And how are you going to record it? Are there people with professional?
Yeah, no, I'm going to have my phone on a tripod, and I'm going to have I'm going to have a whiteboard, and then I'm going to take questions as I go. And so I'm just going to film the whole thing, like an hour and a half, just my phone, just upload it straight, and then hopefully it just covers a lot of stuff. It's just some interesting stuff I've learned, connecting different threads.
Have you got an old phone as well?
No, I've got a new phone.
But have you got an old phone as well?
Yes, I think so.
So empty the file of your old phone. Just my advice. Put the new phone really close to you for the audio, and then point the old phone and record the whiteboard.
Okay.
Then you've got 2 separate streams that you can clip from both, and you can switch between one and the other.
Actually, I think pretty sure this phone has a setting where it records, but in 2 separate kind of angles, if that makes sense.
Okay.
One wider, one closer. I think,
Right.
but I'll test out the audio first, and I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
it should pick up the audio
Nice.
fine. Yeah. I might use another phone, yeah, just in case. It's a good shout to get clearer audio, so at least I have the audio. But I think it's so important to, yeah. I'll use another one, so I definitely have the audio at least. Yeah.
Yeah. We always forget. I was looking through my graveyard of phones the other day. Got like a phone graveyard. I was like, damn, Samsung, damn, dang. I was like, most of them are redundant. You can't use them anymore, but they still got good cameras.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
I don't have
iPhone-
chargers for them anymore.
iPhone 7 is the oldest phone, the oldest iPhone you can use, and then I think on an iPhone 7 or before that you can't download any apps. That's how they get you. Because I tried getting an iPhone 6 or using an iPhone 6, and I couldn't download a banking app. I couldn't download any apps. So that's how they get you, you know.
But it's still a cam. You can use it as a camera, and the
Yeah.
apps that are on it you can use. So it still can be utilized as a second camera. You know,
Yeah.
because they're not too bad. Even the cameras on those phones, they're still okay. It's 180p plus. You know, can't complain. Even though iPhone 6 is probably like 2K. Not 4K, but they're probably 2K. If not 2K, at least 180p, which is more than good enough if you're doing a whiteboard, you know, filming a whiteboard. You can line it up perfectly with a whiteboard and put the angle so that it's coming from an angle where you're going to stand right there, and it's coming from that camera angle specifically, exactly like where you're not going to stand, so that you're not standing in front of it. They can literally see your handwriting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Getting a 40-degree angle. And then
Yeah.
the other
And
one
there's
is catching.
There's a projector as well, so I'm going to have some images to
Nice.
project. I'm not sure. I've never used a projector before, so I'm only going to have like 4 or 5 images to use for that. It's mainly just drawing, because I could quite easily talk to people and say, I tried earlier with my mum and my sister, just that basic, like, oh, if you look on the dollar bill, it's like an AI. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, like a capital A is like a triangle, and they're like, you know, sometimes it just goes over people's head. Some things I think are so simple, but sometimes people are, you need a visual element to be able to see stuff. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I want to try and keep it really simple, because I have a tendency to talk really fast and just presume people know stuff, like water's feminine, fire's masculine, but it's not. People, what do you mean water's feminine? And they have to explain, oh, like intuition, and then all this kind of other stuff as well. So we'll see how it goes, because there's so much I want to talk to people about, but I only decided what I was going to talk about a few days ago. I've left it last minute because I knew I was going to be doing a talk. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do a talk then at this place I go to and listen to talks occasionally about homeopathy, naturopathy, stuff like that, where people are aware of what's going on. But I knew stuff would come to me, and I know exactly what I need to talk about, and I'm just going to try and keep it simple, and then hopefully people enjoy it, and then they're like, oh, we'd love for you to do another talk, and I'll be like, okay, well, we can continue this next time. So yeah, looking forward.
Well, I'm
to
sure
it.
you're gonna nail it.
Yeah,
Got
cheers.
faith in you, brother. You'll be fine.
Thank you.
Just do your thing. You'll be fine, man. You're charismatic. You got all the lights on. It's gonna be sweet.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. Just go and do it. You do your thing, and
Exactly.
like, don't be apologetic. Just do it. Like, big love to everybody. Big love, brother. Big love, dear crew in there, and Naraka and all the other people, Indie Sage, Cosmic, and Toby. It's been an honor. Om Namah Shivaya. Take it easy. I'm gonna sleep like a baby. My girlfriend's probably gone to sleep. Maybe I get to say goodnight to her. She might be awake. Probably not. Big love, everybody. Om Shanti.